At 3:30 in the morning, while most of Los Angeles was asleep, Kobe Bryant was often already awake, alone, inside a silent basketball gym, the lights dim, the arena empty, the sound of sneakers echoing across hardwood floors while the rest of the world rested. For years, those lonely early mornings became part of Kobe Bryant's mythology. The obsession, the discipline, the Mamba Mentality. Fans admired it, teammates feared it, young athletes around the world worshipped it, because when people looked at Kobe Bryant, they did not simply see a basketball player. They saw perfection. 5 NBA championships, global fame, Olympic gold medals, endless game winners, an obsession with greatness so extreme, it transformed him into one of the most legendary athletes in human history. But behind the championships, behind the Black Mamba image, behind the confidence, intensity, and psychological dominance, there was another story, a darker one. Because while millions celebrated Kobe Bryant for becoming the embodiment of relentless greatness, few people stopped to ask what that level of obsession was slowly doing to him internally. The pressure, the emotional isolation, the fear of failure, the loneliness of perfectionism, the endless need to prove himself, and the terrifying reality that once greatness becomes your identity, you are no longer allowed to be human anymore. For years, Kobe Bryant carried the emotional burden of becoming a symbol larger than himself. And eventually, that pressure shaped every part of his life. This is the dark pressure behind Kobe Bryant. Before Los Angeles, before the championships, before becoming the Black Mamba, there was Philadelphia. Kobe Bryant was born into basketball. His father, Joe Bryant, had played professional basketball for years. The game surrounded Kobe from the beginning. But unlike most future NBA legends, Kobe's childhood did not unfold entirely in America. When Joe Bryant continued his basketball career overseas, young Kobe moved with his family to Italy. And emotionally, that experience shaped him more than many people realize. Because while basketball became central to his identity, Kobe often lived between worlds, different cultures, different languages, different expectations. He reportedly learned Italian fluently, adapted to European life, spent years feeling different from the children around him. And psychologically, children who grow up constantly adapting sometimes become emotionally older very early. But they can also become isolated. Kobe later admitted that returning to America felt emotionally difficult. He spoke differently, behaved differently, viewed life differently, and basketball slowly became the one place where he felt complete control. The court became emotional security, because inside basketball, everything made sense. Hard work created results. Discipline created power. Control created safety. And over time, that mentality became obsessive. Even as a teenager, Kobe Bryant's relationship with greatness already looked psychologically extreme. While many young athletes relied on talent, Kobe became consumed by mastery, perfection, domination. Failure affected him emotionally in ways many people around him struggled to understand. Friends and coaches later described how Kobe could become furious over tiny mistakes. Not simple frustration, something deeper, as if imperfection itself threatened his identity. And perhaps that was the beginning of the pressure that would later define his entire life. Then came high school basketball, Lower Merion High School. And suddenly, the entire country began paying attention. Kobe Bryant looked different immediately. His footwork looked advanced. His confidence looked fearless. His mentality looked older than his age. But alongside admiration, expectation exploded. Media attention intensified rapidly. Scouts followed him constantly. Analysts began comparing him to Michael Jordan before he was even an adult. And psychologically, that kind of comparison becomes dangerous. Because once the world starts calling a teenager the next Michael Jordan, normal life disappears. Every performance becomes judgment. Every mistake becomes humiliation. Every weakness becomes public. But Kobe Bryant did not run from pressure. He chased it. That became part of what made him so psychologically unusual. Most people fear pressure. Kobe seemed addicted to it. Then came the NBA. The Los Angeles Lakers. Bright lights. Massive expectations. Global attention. Kobe entered professional basketball directly from high school. And almost immediately, he experienced one of the most painful moments of his young career. The 1997 NBA playoffs. Game against Utah. Kobe Bryant missed 4 airballs. The entire basketball world watched a teenager collapse publicly under pressure. Commentators criticized him. Fans mocked him. Media narratives exploded instantly. For many young athletes, that humiliation could have permanently destroyed confidence. But Kobe Bryant responded differently. The embarrassment became psychological fuel. That moment reportedly changed him forever. Because after Utah, the obsession intensified. Stories about Kobe's work ethic slowly became legendary across the NBA. Teammates described arriving at practice early, only to discover Kobe had already been training for hours. Others described leaving late at night, while Kobe continued practicing alone. Middle of the night workouts, 4 a.m. training sessions, relentless conditioning, film study lasting endlessly. And slowly, Mamba Mentality was born. But behind the motivational image, there was emotional cost, because obsession isolates people. And Kobe Bryant became increasingly isolated psychologically as his greatness grew. Teammates often described him as emotionally intense, demanding, cold, relentless. Some admired him deeply. Others feared him, because Kobe demanded perfection from everyone around him, but most brutally from himself. And psychologically, that level of self-pressure becomes exhausting. Winning stopped becoming joy. It became survival. Then came Shaquille O'Neal. Together, Shaq and Kobe built one of the most dominant dynasties in NBA history. Championships followed rapidly. The Lakers became unstoppable. The fame became global. The mythology exploded. But beneath the victories, tension grew. Because Kobe Bryant's obsession with control often clashed with everyone around him, including Shaq. The relationship became one of the most famous rivalries between teammates in sports history. And psychologically, it revealed something important about Kobe. He did not simply want greatness. He wanted ownership of greatness, control over it. Because for Kobe Bryant, being second emotionally felt unbearable. Then came one of the darkest chapters of his public life, the 2003 sexual assault case. Suddenly, the image of Kobe Bryant changed overnight. Media pressure became overwhelming. Public opinion became divided. Sponsors distanced themselves. The scrutiny became global. Some defended him passionately. Others condemned him completely. But regardless of opinion, the psychological pressure surrounding Kobe became enormous. Because when your entire identity revolves around greatness, public controversy feels psychologically catastrophic. And emotionally, many people close to Kobe later believed the scandal changed him permanently. The isolation deepened. The emotional walls grew stronger. And basketball increasingly became escape. Then came one of the greatest individual stretches in NBA history. 81 points against Toronto. Scoring explosions. Championships. Iconic moments. Game winners. Kobe Bryant transformed pain into performance repeatedly. And that is part of what made him so fascinating psychologically. Because often, the more pressure Kobe carried internally, the more unstoppable he appeared publicly. But eventually, even legends grow older. In later years, something about Kobe began changing emotionally. The older Kobe Bryant looked calmer, softer publicly, more reflective. And many fans noticed how deeply fatherhood transformed him emotionally. especially his relationship with his daughters. For perhaps the first time publicly, people began seeing Kobe Bryant beyond basketball itself, not simply the competitor, the father, the mentor, the human being. His interviews felt different, more emotionally honest, more peaceful, more aware of the psychological cost greatness had demanded from him for decades. And then, January 26, 2020, the helicopter crash. The news spread across the world with terrifying speed. At first, many people refused to believe it, because Kobe Bryant had become one of those figures who felt permanent, untouchable, immortal in the minds of millions. And suddenly, he was gone, alongside his daughter Gianna and several other families. The grief became global instantly. Fans gathered outside Staples Center crying openly. Athletes broke down emotionally during interviews. Millions struggled to process the loss, because for an entire generation, Kobe Bryant represented something larger than basketball itself. Discipline, obsession, sacrifice, mental toughness, relentless ambition. But perhaps the emotional reaction surrounding his death revealed something even deeper. Because beneath the Black Mamba mythology, people also recognized the painful human story underneath. A child searching for identity, a teenager carrying impossible expectations, a perfectionist emotionally consumed by greatness, a man who sacrificed peace in pursuit of immortality, and a father who finally seemed to be finding emotional balance before tragedy ended everything. Today, Kobe Bryant remains one of the most influential athletes in sports history. His mentality became legendary. His work ethic became mythology. His influence transformed basketball forever. But behind the success story, there is also a darker human story. A lonely child trying to prove himself. A perfectionist trapped by impossible standards. A competitor psychologically addicted to pressure. And a man who spent most of his life fighting battles the world rarely saw publicly. Because sometimes, the people who appear strongest externally are carrying the heaviest emotional burdens internally. And sometimes, the pressure of becoming legendary can slowly consume the human being underneath the legend itself. If you enjoyed this documentary, subscribe to Dark Human Stories for more psychological sports documentaries, emotional celebrity stories, hidden struggles behind greatness, and powerful untold human stories. And remember, the world often celebrates greatness without fully understanding the emotional price people pay to achieve it.